The sign of the Mahdi. I will be mentioning to you a few points that are very, very important. Number one is WW3. According to Laura Kelly and Morgan Shelfant, they are journalists, very famous journalists, they mentioned that relations between US and Russia and China under President Biden are off to a very, very difficult and hostile start. Biden, in March, we know, he called Russian President Putin a killer, and President Putin, he responded by wishing Biden good health. A day later, right after a day later, US and Chinese officials, they exchanged sharp words at their first meeting since Biden was inaugurated, with Beijing indicating that US should be more worried about democracy within its borders than outside them. Now, this is a very important term, which is the Cold War. The situation between US and China is so bad, the experts are calling it a second Cold War, or a new Cold War. And this is a term that is used by various commentators, like political expert. These commentators, they describe this situation to describe the heightened post-Cold War era political and military tensions between the US and China. This is a term we have to be very, very careful about. Last week, just happened in July last week, President Biden, along with NATO, the European Union, Australia, UK, Canada, Japan, and New Zealand, slammed China. They slammed China for a wide-reaching cyber espionage campaign, which secretly of State Antony Blinken said posed a major threat to our economy and national security. Chinese cyber espionage is a program that is spying on US military, on US economy. Wall Street Journal, they said that US-China relation, they describe the China and US relation, the threat of conflict is present. And this is again, they are saying, Wall Street Journal, stay out of Taiwan. Back in April, China warned US, stay out of Taiwan, do not get involved in our affairs. Situation is very, very tense right now, as we know, with Taiwan, over the Taiwan issue with China and US, and it is not abating. It is just getting worse and worse. Now, the other sign that I want to talk to you, which is also very, very important, it says the gap between the rich and the poor. The world's richest 1% have more than twice as much wealth as 6.9 billion people. Almost half of humanity is living on less than 5.50 a day, which is very, very minuscule. Wealth under taxed. While the richest continue to enjoy booming fortune, they are also enjoying some of the lowest levels of taxes that they have to pay in any country in decades, as are the corporations that they own, the businesses that they own. Instead, taxes are falling disproportionately on the working people. When governments undertax the rich, there is less money for vital services like healthcare and education, increasing the amount of care work that falls on the shoulders of women and girls. Today, dear brothers and sisters, the situation is so bad. As we talk about the Mahdi sign, right? This is number 2 sign, which is the widening gap between the rich and the poor. Today, dear brothers and sisters, 258 million children, 1 out of every 5, will not be allowed to go to school. Again, that is because of extreme poverty. We are seeing extreme poverty and we are seeing extreme wealth. This is another sign, the coming of the hour, the Mahdi, as we speak in this channel, because the Prophet ﷺ, I will mention in the hadith at the end, because the Prophet ﷺ has prophesied about these things to happen, and we are seeing it with our eyes every single day. Each year, 100 million people are forced into extreme poverty due to health care cost. Even people who are, you will think, people who are well off, people who are having a decent job, a decent lifestyle, even these people, because they have to pay so much in tax, healthcare, and so many other sectors that they have to spend money on for the government, for their own family, that they will they are being forced to become very poor, extremely poor. Almost half of humanity is living on less than $5.50, and this is, dear brothers and sisters, very, very bad. Why? Because we are seeing, on the other hand, the rich people are going to the space, as we have seen. Jeff Bezos, he went to the space on a fun journey, fun travel, while we have so many people living under this extreme poverty. These are two main signs that I want to discuss in this video. Now let me talk to you about something very, very important too. I'll actually mention sign number 3, but before I mention you the sign number 3, I want to go back to the sign number 1, the relation between US, China and Russia. As I said in the beginning, that journalists, experts who are keeping track of the relationship between China, US, Russia, the world major powers, they are now predicting that the World War III, the Malhama, non-Muslim Malhama, let's put it that way, is something that is inevitable. Okay, it is inevitable, even though it may not happen right away, but it is something inevitable. And again, I quoted Wall Street Journal. They are saying that. This is not what I said. According to Kelly and Morgan, two of the prominent journalists in the States, they said that the relationship between US and China is so bitter right now. It's so bitter that they can't even stand each other. They do not even see eye to eye. This is how bad things are. And obviously, when Biden called Putin that you are a killer, I mean, you can imagine how much hatred this guy has against Putin. And not because Putin is a bad person necessarily, according to even though US, they believe that he was a KGB agent, Putin, and he doesn't have any heart. Apart from that, just the fact that Putin has actually spied on US election, he interfered into the US election, and he is spying on the economy, whatever US is doing, whatever new technology they're coming up with. Just because of that fact, the Democrat, Biden and his party, they're so anti-Putin, because they believe somehow maybe Russia one day will dominate their politics, who will come to power and whatnot. So they want to get rid of Putin. They want to get rid of Russia. This is my point. And that can only happen with WW3. And if it comes to that, in that kind of situation, then of course they will not hesitate, according to my understanding, to strike Russia. Now let's talk about the relationship between China and US. Of course, we know Donald Trump, he started the trade war. As we have seen in the past, he started the trade war. He imposed a lot of tariffs, a lot of taxes and whatnot. So China is, in other words, not happy. And if they have to survive, if they believe that US is becoming an existential threat for us, wallahi, China will go on the offensive. Right now, they're not doing anything. They are not spying on anybody. They're just building their own island, South China Sea, building military bases, spending and investing money in African countries and many other countries. That's all they're doing right now. But the situation can be so bad that China might be forced to go on the offensive and start spying on US and eventually try to sabotage some of the projects that are doing, especially in the countries like Africa, by using US personnel. China has the ability actually to hire US personnel who will eventually do harm to their own country. And we have seen what happened to Edward Snowden. Edward Snowden was a CIA agent. He fled to Russia. He has a lot of information at the same time to give it to Russia and China that might help them to do a lot of damage to the US economy and their military and whatnot. We know that recently NATO, European Union, Australia, Japan, New Zealand, they all ganged up on China, saying that you guys need to stop cyber espionage because this is something dangerous what you are doing, and it is a major threat to the economy and national security, according to Blinken, Anthony Blinken, the Secretary of State of US. So dear brothers and sisters, my point here is that things are getting very, very intense. We will, all it will take really one shot of fire, and then the other will retaliate without thinking about it much, because things are at a boiling point. Nobody has time to think anymore. They are going to strike, and this is going to be dangerous. And so going back to the second point, which is the issue with the poverty. Now with the COVID-19, dear brothers and sisters, a lot of people are being forced into poverty. We are seeing wallahi extreme poverty. We are seeing people, children, women, they're dying. They have no food, no shelter, nothing. And on the other hand, we are seeing super rich people going to the space, going to space tourism, what they call. These are all alamat, signs, very very important sign and clear sign for the coming of the Mahdi, as the Prophet he said that al-Mahdi minni ajl al-jabhati yamlu al-ard qista wal adl kama muriyat zawlan wa zulma. He will fill the earth with justice and equity, and he will bring peace and tranquility to the Muslims, just like as it was filled with injustice and oppression. If you are new to this channel, if you want to know more signs of the coming of the Mahdi, inshallah, consider subscribing, like this video, if you share this video, and I'll see you soon again. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.